Criollos by Acacia Grimes. Part 1, Historical Background. So the Criollos were a descendant of people that were of Spanish descent but born into Mexico. The benefits of being a Criollo is that they were landowners, miners, involved in the trading establishments, and also established well within the church. They were number 2 in the hierarchy out of 5 for the most respected and well-treated individuals. Part 2, Socioeconomic Status. So, as I said, they were part 2 in the Casa system. Over to the left, the highest possible ethnic group you could be are the Pensadores, and then it went to the Criollos, the Mestizos, Indigenistas, y Africanos. So the benefits and downsides of being a Criollo is, one of the benefits was that they were able to own property such as rancherias, haciendas, mines. They were able to work in law and medicine, and priesthood, were invested in religious functions, churches, and properties, and were given a general respect compared to other ethnic groups in this time period. However, they were unable to participate or perform in roles that were higher ranking, as the Spanish crown did not fully trust them, for lack of a better term, and so they were given a high position in society but were unable to reach the highest based on solely being born in Mexico. Daily life. Part 3. The common Criollo. So daily life was really separated between whether or not they were wealthy. Well, they were definitely wealthier than the other 3 categories below them. There definitely was a sliding scale. The lower class Criollos worked as merchants, artisans, farmers, and lived in the normal Spanish lifestyle that was seen back in Spain for common quote-unquote regular people. They still had access to parts of the higher lifestyle, but not fully. So this access includes education, imported goods, and then they embraced the Spanish customs from Spain, but also adapted to the Latin American customs. And while I just mentioned this for the lower class, this also applies to the wealthier class, who lived in bigger houses, commonly found in Mexico City, Puebla, and Guadalajara. And for specifically wealthy, they had a lot of indigenistas or Africano servants. This also did apply to the lower, but it wasn't as common. Interactions with colonial authorities. Part 4. Colonial authorities, the best way to put it is they had the same framework or setting as pensadores, but because they were not born in Spain and of Spanish descent, they had very limited access to the higher roles of government and church officials. And with this, it having this ability to be so high up but not to the highest wasn't just for positions of education or power, but also access to conversate with said people. However, they did play important roles in the local government, religious brotherhoods, education, and as I stated just a moment ago, they were treated with like second-class citizens whom had loyalty to Spain but were second-class to the pensadores. They were very, very integral to local government, but held at arm's length to Spain's government. Part 5. Challenge and resistance. So, daily challenges. There was definitely a lot of political exclusion. This was based on the wealth, race, and culture that did not change the Spanish mind. So, essentially, no matter how wealthy a Criollo was, or how ethnically pure, or the factor that they are just descendants of Spain born in another country, did not allow them to have the opportunities, say, as a Spaniard who had moved over there. This really created a high level of division between the Pensueleras and the Criollos. This led to the Criollos celebrating local culture, the Virgin Guadalupe, and involving themselves in that, rather. They focused on the positive history of Mexico and declared being Mexican, as they were not accepted by their Spanish predecessors. This led to a lot of rebellion, one being the Bourbon Reform, and then these Criollos took leadership and independence movements, which we'll commonly see throughout the rest of this class. And the long-term impacts, part 6. So the long-term impacts include the resentment towards the Spanish-based citizens residing in Mexico for the fact that they were treated like a second-class citizen solely based on where they're born, not even their ethnicity. This sentiment ultimately led to a war of independence in 1821, and then after gaining said independence, the Criollos took over the place of the Criollos took over the place of the Pensueleras and became the new economic and political leaders for Mexico, and they maintained said social hierarchies above the Mestizo Indigenistas and the Africanos. Thank you.